Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, this show is for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love or love the life you create. Now, here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I am doing amazing. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Yes. So, June has just been such a wonderful month with things just blossoming all over. And, we've been doing a lot of good talks about the blossoming of sexual health in the vagina.
Oh, yeah, the ultimate blossom.
Yes. And it's so good that we are having all these discussions, as I went recently to a flower shop or flower thing. And because when we think about sexual health and when we think about the body, it's very beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
Delicate.
Delicate. Fierce. Yes. It has all these delicate parts. But sometimes when we have a negative concept or things happen, we get so frustrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially when we can't find the support that we need. Not understanding leads to a huge amount of frustration.
Right. And so last week we had a young lady on, and she talked about sexual pain and stuff from a different perspective, in the sense of, if you have pain or discomfort, you can live a life without sex. But there's others of us who talked about, hey, we have this stuff, but we want sex.
Yeah, we still want the sex. Yeah.
Yes. And so, yes. So I am so happy that we're talking about this also, because there's a lot of people out there. I mean, I see it in my practice where people are having, enormous pain, whether it's psychological, physical, and they're like, I don't know what to do. My vagina is broken or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and it plays on your self-esteem a lot. So I'm super excited about today's talk, because it's probably many of, throw my air quotes, broken vaginas that are sitting by waiting like this, like, talk to us.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that about the self-esteem. Because people sometimes don't think females have self-esteem issues when it comes to the vagina, or that they feel broken or whatever, but it does impact.
It absolutely does.
Yes. But before we get into that, I know you guys are like, oh my gosh, we've got pain and we've got issues. We want to get into it. But I really want to also just give a small shout out to our charity of the month, which is Valerie House. And Valerie House is a great organization. If you know of a kid or a young person who's lost someone through death, Valerie House provides a lot of support. And if you're thinking about, hey, I want to donate and help out young people who are in grieving, check out www.valeriehouse.org. All right, well, we're going to take a small break. And when we come back, we are going to bring on a guest who is Blossom, who's beautiful, and she's going to help you discuss and figure out giving voice to female sexual pain and what we can do about it. All right, be back in a moment.
Sex should not be the elephant in the room. The fourth ebook of the Improving Intimacy book series from Bringing Intimacy Back, It's All About Sex, helps you navigate every which way you can tend to your sex life. Pulling out all the stops, dive into the sensual read about sex toys, silky linens, and date nights. Improving Intimacy, It's All About Sex is available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and paperback. Search Dr. April Brown on Amazon to view all her books on improving intimacy for yourself, spouse, and more.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Hey, welcome, Traci. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yes. I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm so excited about getting into this topic because there's many people out there with sexual pain or sexual discomfort, and they're like, I don't know what to do. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Traci has been doing this, guys, almost since she's, I guess, left her mama and papa's house.
Actually, before I left my mama and papa's house.
Okay. Yes. She's been doing this for over 30 years. And I guess she started off working in oncology. And yes, and then in 2015, she created a sexual health program to help start to talk about this, to bring to light. And in 2021, she and her husband created Intimate Pathway Centers for Sexual Health. She's a wonderful person, got so much accolades. So yes, let's just jump into the topic. Yes.
I think it's head first at all times, right?
Yes, of course. So one of the things that you have in the title of your thing is Intimate Pathways, and I always use the word intimacy. So start there. What do you define as intimate? What is that pathway? What is that organization about?
Now, Dr. April, you're stepping into a pile when you ask me about intimacy.
Okay.
But intimacy in my head, in Traci head, it's into me see, right? Because really at the core of whoever we are, we want to be seen for who we are and loved anyway. So I think intimacy into me see is really speaking to a mindful and present connection, which I think is missing in our busy world. I think intentional and respectful conversations are not happening like maybe they should. I talk to people who have really hard life conversations via text and email.
Ooh.
And, that's your first place there. I think it's about, to me, the ultimate of intimacy is being someone's safe harbor in a storm. Like I can turn to you. I can count on you to have my back no matter what's brewing around me. And I think it's very multidimensional, right? It's not one thing. It's our emotions. It's our physicality. It's the experiences we share together. It's our intellectual properties that we share with each other. It's spiritual, it's financial, and it's sexual. So there are so many dimensions that if you're struggling in one area, you have great opportunity to make that up maybe in another area.
Absolutely. That give and take.
Yes. Yeah. And so on today's show, we're talking about, like you said, it's a lot of different aspects, but then when you add pain.
But then you add pain.
Yes.
And, pain kind of keeps us in our lower, more primal brain. It holds us kind of hostage here, where all of our good thinking and problem solving and relational connecting is a higher part of our brain. And so pain comes in a lot of ways. And I think we're free to talk about pain in a lot of ways. But I don't think women who are experiencing pain with sex really have found a way to have a voice in our world and have that count as a true pain experience, and how that might be impacting her desire for sexuality, right? I mean, you think about our protective brain that's always scanning the world for trouble. If I hear the word sex and the last 15 times I've had sex, it's really hurt me.
Right.
My brain's going to be like, sister, what about some Netflix, or, go take a nap? What about that instead? Because that's not going to hurt you. Right. So I think giving it a voice, and there, when I was just kind of preparing for this, I was able just in a blink to come up with 20 reasons why women have pain with sex,
Right.
from a physiological standpoint. And that was literally in less than 3 minutes, right? That I came up with these ideas.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what are the things that you came up with?
Okay, my list. You ready?
Yes.
Endometriosis. How many women have endometriosis in our world? So, just to back up, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists estimate that 75% of women will have an episode of sexual pain at some point in her life.
Wow,
Now,
75%.
that
Wow.
may be a one-time thing. That
Right.
may be a situational thing. That may be transitional, in the time of her life. But for some women, it's an ongoing chronic problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if 75 of us percent of us are going to have that experience, why aren't we talking about it more?
Right. And you and I both came from the South, and sometimes, I don't know, one of the things, I don't know, being a Southerner, it's like, if you have pain, you suck it up.
Suck it up, sister.
Right. Given that strong without the explanation of what strong means.
And
Right.
your duty, right? You do your womanly duties.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So when I was thinking about causes, I came up with endometriosis, which starts impacting women as soon as they begin having periods, typically. So these girls start having struggles at, 9, 10, 11 years old. Fibroid tumors. How many of us women, as we've gotten older, have developed these
Yes, I've both of
fibroid
those things.
tumors,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And so
exactly.
now you've got this mass weighing down your uterus, which is then putting more pressure on your cervix, which with a partner penetration, you're banging right against that. So that can be really painful for women. Irritable bowel syndrome,
Mm.
we can all kind of sit here and think, oh yeah. Painful bladder syndrome. Women will have interstitial cystitis, which is like ongoing inflammation in their bladder. Well, sex is going to bump right against that too.
Yes.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Many women have this.
Wow. Yes.
So they have this very cyclical pain, right, with sex. Contraceptives, hormonal contraceptives. Women will have dryness. A lot of women will have changes to desire and vaginal lubrication on hormonal contraceptives.
The IUD has moved, and that has caused pain.
Or the IUD gets moved, or it's not in deep enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or you just have a larger partner and you're a shorter vagina.
Yes.
What about the place in our menstrual cycle? Before we have a period, we have high levels of estrogen and we want sex. After our period, when it's done, our estrogen's at its low point. And so some women will have dry, painful sex then.
Right.
Perimenopausal transition, that can go on for 3 to 7 years before a woman actually becomes menopausal. But through that whole period of time, she's getting drier and a little more atrophy, right? So what about the postpartum transition? Especially if you breastfeed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The list just keeps going, girl.
And you know what I was thinking? I was like, when I started my period back in, I don't know, I think it was 11 or whatever. I wish there was education about all of this. Yeah, because I'm told is about a pad, basically. And it comes once a month.
An pill to take for pain. Don't address the pain. Just take a pill, a hot water bottle, and drink some tea and lay down.
Right. So just my last few that I came up just to show you, pelvic trauma, chronic constipation, because the vagina and the rectum live right against each other. Recurrent infections like sexually transmitted infections, bacterial, PID, vaginismus, which is basically a tightening where nothing can penetrate because the muscles tie down.
Right.
Vulvodynia, there's many vulvar skin conditions like lichen sclerosis, and cancer. So breast, GYN, bladder, rectal, and vulvar cancers are all going to have direct impact on that woman's sexual body. So we have many reasons why there are pain.
Yes.
We
And
just don't talk about them.
yes. So as we talk about all these reasons why, is there hope?
Well, there's always hope, sister.
Yes, of
We're
course.
never going to give up our hope. Just one second.
Exactly.
Excuse me, I have Oklahoma allergies. So what are our options? What do we do about this? I think the first thing we have to do is just even speak it out loud, right? To our mate. Because I've talked to so many women who have had painful sex maybe for a period of time, and they've never really even mentioned it to their partner. They've just kind of sucked it up and they haven't said anything. And evidence tells us that women will not even speak to their physicians about it, right? Like they're waiting for us, for the healthcare folks to bring it up. They're hoping we're going to bring it up. But of course, that's become a stalemate because docs have 10 minutes in a room, and a sexual health conversation is not a 10-minute conversation.
Right. And just in relation to speaking to your partner, for all those who are out there listening, of course, if you have questions, make a comment. But if you're just laying there and you're in pain and you're either just laying there or even faking it, which is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I think there's a lot of faking it going from, for those women. And because, when I ask women why they don't say anything, it's surrounded in shame. Like it's about my parts, and those are taboo, and we can't talk about those things. We don't talk about sex. So, I feel like a huge part of what we have the opportunity to do that isn't happening in a lot of world is not only speaking to the person, but helping that conversation happen with the mate.
Right. Because men sometimes take it like, did I do something wrong?
Right. Well, and they don't, if this is a partner that they love, they don't want to cause them pain. Right. Which is why women don't tell their men, right? Because they know the men will feel bad. So it's just a very vicious circle that people are embarrassed to reach out about, because we all think we're the only ones, right? Every one of us three women in this picture right here, we have issues that we're just sure nobody else has to deal with in this world.
Right. Exactly.
That's probably not true, but
I have a bunch of personalities as a Gemini, so I think we all deal with.
Now listen here, Kay. I was born on June 21st, which is the summer solstice of Gemini and Cancer. So I got 3 personalities blooming up in here. And most people who know me well will agree to that. So not a newsflash. Why do we think, this is something I don't understand, is why something very physical, a very physical reason, a very physical disease would cause any woman to feel shameful, right? If I have, you think about even just breast cancer and GYN cancer, people don't even want to talk about that, do they? Right? Like they have cancer, and they withhold that information from folks just out of shame for the body part that was impacted. So I think that's pretty heavy. So what are things we can do about it? Well, we're going to gather a lot of information. If you come to see Traci or you go to see one of these ladies, we're going to gather a whole bunch of information just about you and your life and your relationship and your beliefs. I mean, it truly, just as intimacy is multidimensional, so of course is our sexuality. So it's going to be about gathering a lot of information. And I think the starting place for any woman having sexual pain is with a GYN. Like we need to have a really good pelvic examination with honest communication of what's happening. So we can make sure there's not something we need to address medically, right? Just because the GYN tells a woman, well, I did your exam and everything looks normal, right? I wish they would take that sentence just a little bit further and saying there's nothing physiological that I can identify, but I believe your pain, and let's get you to the next person who
Mhm.
might be able to help you.
Right.
You know, because go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was just about to say, I wish they would even ask about pain.
Yes.
They don't even ask. And so
Yeah.
if they don't ask,
We're
maybe
not
I
saying
shouldn't.
it.
I'm not going to say it, because if I'm having pain, sometimes people think if I'm having pain, I must having something else wrong with me, or an STD, or I'm doing something wrong. So I'm going to shut up and not say anything.
Yeah.
And it also takes crazy enough, it ties into finance sometimes as well, because if you bring up a problem, your free 1-year exam is no longer free. It's now a problem visit, and you have to pay a copay. So unfortunately,
I didn't
you
even
know,
think about that.
some
I
women
didn't
are
think
even
about
to the
that
place
piece.
of, I'm financially strapped, so I'm just going to deal with it. If they see something, then they'll say something. But if I bring it up, it turns my visit into something different. So it
Right.
goes even deeper than we
Right.
really think
Well,
about.
and think about the last 2.5 years of how many people have put off doctor's appointments or lost
Yes.
their health insurance. Right. So
Yes.
they're just not going. I mean, we see this in oncology. We see that there were a lot of missed screening opportunities for people. Right. So that's a great point. That's a great point. So the conversation, it goes back to, we've got to talk to our mate, and then we've got to feel empowered for ourselves
Mhm.
and find enough value in ourselves to reach out for help. You know, I've always said that as a nurse, people will tell a nurse anything, anything. And so reach out. If you don't feel like you can talk to your physician when you go in, if you feel more comfortable with the MA or the nurse, start the conversation with them at least, so they can share it with the doc, and maybe the doc can open that up. Other people to reach for are obviously going to be a sexual health professional. So you can go through the AASECT, AASECT, right? Did I get it all, girls?
Yes, you did.
The American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. Find a provider that's in your area. I know for me, I am multi-state licensed, so I can actually practice in 34 different states. So, you know, check in with people, because telehealth has really opened up a lot of avenues, so that if you don't have somebody, like I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm in my region of Oklahoma, there's one AASECT certified sex therapist, and then myself as an AASECT certified sex counselor.
Wow.
So I know in a 5-state area, I'm the only provider that does anything like what I do. Right. So look around your world and find your resources, because there are people who want to help you with this. There are people just like the 3 women on this show who that's their calling, that's their passion, is to help people in this very unique way. And if we're going to help one member, we have to help both partners, because what I find, and I know you guys do as well, a lot of times both of them have some issue.
Yeah.
So we got to help them. So a pelvic floor physical therapist is another great option for pelvic pain.
Yes.
Again, they're physical therapists who have done additional training to specifically train in the muscles or the pelvic bowl that holds up our pelvis and all of our organs. And a lot of things can go wrong with that. And we see that with urinary leaking or chronic constipation, painful sex. All of those things are telling us about the health of the pelvic floor. So that's another great option for you to seek assistance through. And we're usually going to talk to you about things beyond the emotional piece in your history. We're going to talk about, you know, how's your vaginal hydration? We can talk about how to do vaginal dilation. I mean, I don't know about you girls. I'm going to bring in a little prop so nobody squeals.
Yes, bring it on.
So this is Viv, and she's my velvet vulva.
Yes, I love her name.
But here's the thing. I bring this out as a teaching tool because so many people, you know, when I refer to this, we call this whole thing the vagina. Right?
Exactly.
And so just helping people understand what their parts are and how they work. So here's our clitoris, and the foreskin, which is basically equivalent to the head of the penis in a man. So there's your hot pleasure zone for most folks, right? And then we have a hole where we urinate from. We have a hole that's our vagina, and we have a hole that's our rectum. And then we have these beautiful labia that kind of protect and house it all. And this is going to be different on every single woman. Every woman will have her own unique flower.
I love that you broke that down, because there are tons of women, not just children, kids, but women who don't even know that they urinate from a different place than where they have sex from. And I found that astounding.
Well, you know, of course, as a nurse, I've been educating people about their bodies through my whole career. And we don't give people good education, information, and access to their bodies.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in Oklahoma, so we have a very conservative Christian population here, right? And for some folks in my area, sex has been labeled in such a way through that socialization that this is naughty and this is dirty. And it's taboo, and we don't talk about it. We sure don't look at it, and we absolutely don't touch it.
Right. And guess what, Tracy? Guess what? God created sex.
That's what I tell folks. I'm like, so if we can all agree that the Lord designed our bodies and that he makes no mistakes. Then, and he gave us sensation of pleasure.
Right.
And he gave a woman a clitoris, which has no physical purpose in our body outside of pleasure.
Right.
Then it seems to me the Lord might have intended the woman to have some sexual pleasure.
Wow. Can you
and he
didn't
give her T-Rex arms.
And I think about how we define pleasure, because for me, if I'm stressed and I do this kind of like, you know, light touch on my forearm, that's kind of a downer, you know, that kind of helps down me out in my anxiety. But that's pleasure. Right. So is that naughty because it's pleasure?
Right.
Right. I don't see the Lord up there thinking anything about our bodies is naughty or shameful. I think he's proud of the whole thing.
Yes.
And so I want to empower women to be proud of the whole thing. So I do want to talk about something for women who have deep penetrative pain. So that's like, because I always want to know, is your pain at the time of penetration? Is it with ongoing thrusting, or is it up higher with deeper thrusting? And it can be all three, right? But if a woman like with endometriosis, polycystic ovarian, cervical cancer, some of those kind of issues, there's this coolest thing. It's called the O-nut. This is 4 of them stacked together. And they're just these little silicone rubbery rings that can all interchange to each other. And how they work is that they go to the base of your partner's erect penis if you're with a male partner, and it creates a little bumper. So it limits how deep that penetration can be in her body. And this was developed by a couple dealing with endometriosis.
Right.
So I tell women it's called O-nut, OHNUT. And it's a great little bumper system. You start with 2 and you can add as many as you need. But that's a great help for women with deep penetrating pain. I talk to women.
Where can you get that? You can get
that online at the O-nut store. And it's helped so many women, right? Like one couple's dealing with this issue in their marriage, and they leaned into it together.
Right.
And they gave each other permission for curiosity to seek some solutions, right? Like they leaned into it. And, you know, she went to the doc and didn't feel like she was getting those answers. So that husband and wife came up with something to help them. So
That's
that
awesome.
to me, I love the fact that they're leaning into that as a couple, right?
Mhm.
Because I think what we see in traditional medicine, woman goes in, has a problem, and if we address it with her.
Right.
But if she's been having sexual pain, it's impacted her sexual relationship. And now we also need to extend that care into that relationship to help them find their way back into a shared intimacy again that's pleasurable for both people. And I think that's where we kind of miss out. Same like when we give our men Viagra or whatever we give
Right.
them. I tell the urologist, I'm like, listen, most of those men you're giving erectile medications to are married to a postmenopausal woman.
Right, exactly.
And if her area hasn't been visited in a while, then we need to do some work in her body as well for that to be pleasant. But we don't think about that, right?
Right.
So, again, when we're giving men erectile medications, great opportunity to say, hey, this can really impact the whole experience because they're anxious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get an erection and they're ready to go, but their wife's body may take a lot more time to prepare sexually. And that's probably another big reason. The roundabout reason of pain is we're not slowing down, engaging all the erogenous zones, incorporating all the senses, and spending some time on preparing that body.
Right. And I would definitely agree with you, Tracy, because sometimes what happens is we get so busy or distracted, we leave our body. You know what I'm saying? Our body's there with the partner, but we have left.
But we're spectatoring the whole event.
Yes.
And I tell women, I'm like, if you're standing above going, is he liking this? Does this feel good? Oh, that's hurting me. How does my fat look in this? Does my butt look big in this position? We're not there.
Right. We're not.
We're not there. We're up here being the announcer for the whole event. And
exactly. So Tracy, do you have any other props? I'm just curious.
Girl, I have so many props. Okay. So here's one of my favorite props. The clitoris.
The golden one, yes.
Right? Because we see this much of it and we think that's the whole party.
Right.
But the biggest part of the party lies behind, right? So, and this is a really fun prop because when I hold it in my hand, you can see how that tip started turning pink. It turns bright pink when it's warmed up.
Oh,
I'm liking it. I talk about pelvic wands, how we can use pelvic wands if we have tightness or stenosis or tight muscles in our pelvic, how we can help to loosen those up. I think everybody needs lube. Lube is good for all bodies. Mm-hmm. I'm a hybrid lover. Are you into the hybrids at all with the lubes?
No, tell me about the hybrid.
Silicone water base.
Yeah, it's a combo, silicone and water, and you can use it with your
and the CBD.
Yes, awesome.
Right?
Yes,
so,
definitely.
I mean, our world is getting more and more like, even though we're still not real open publicly in my area, there's so much information truly available, and there are so many tools to help us meet our mission that there's no reason that we wouldn't reach out. And let's make sure we close out with some outer course, right?
Yes, of course.
Because we're not bound to penis and vagina, especially if the vagina is having pain. So there's a whole lot of pleasure that we can experience and share and have very lively sexual lives that don't require a hard penis or vaginal penetration. And if you need help with that, I know a girl you can call. I know 3 girls you can call.
Exactly. So Tracy, this has been amazing. Yes. So if people are out there listening and they're like, oh, I want to get some more information, or I want to get to know what else you provide, tell us how we can find you and all that.
You can find me, of course, on the internet. I'm at Intimate Pathways, plural, intimatepathways.org. And you can go to that website. You can read more about me. You can schedule, if you want to schedule a 15-minute consultation, just for us to connect and have a conversation and see if we're the right people to help each other, then that's the perfect thing to do. Because even if I'm not the perfect person, I always try to help you find that person who would be the perfect person for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, you just
It's been
got
fun.
so much
It's
knowledge.
so fun.
Yes.
We have so many more things to talk about. Let's do it again.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Let's do it again. Yes, definitely. Yes. And I love also how you educated our audience, which is, thank you so much for doing
Absolutely.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
that. Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. We're going to take a break and we'll be back in a moment.
Thanks.
Bye.
Rekindle, restore, and renew your love in paradise. Join Vacation Counseling in Costa Rica on August 14th through the 18th. Vacation Counseling has a 98% effectiveness in keeping relationships together. Experience Costa Rica Peace Retreat and take advantage of all it has to offer: one-on-one counseling, yoga, and nature outings to help you and your partner rekindle the passion. Vacation Counseling includes intimacy workshops, sessions, working closely with counselors, yoga, and ziplining. Enroll today at vacationcounseling.com.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Wow. That was so
awesome.
Educational,
Yes.
powerful, inspiring.
Yes. I love the visuals because a lot of people, they do better when they have the visuals. It opens up the mind to the conversation even more.
Right, definitely. Yes. Yeah. And I also just think all the resources she gave,
Yes. I wrote down the ONUT. I definitely will be looking at that for our clients, because that's it makes so much sense. You just ONUT. Oh yeah, okay.
Definitely. Me too. Yeah. So what's coming up on our upcoming shows?
Well, we going to keep the good conversations rolling with the upcoming shows. On June the 30th, we have a guest speaker. Coach Lee Hopkins will be discussing developing intimacy with yourself and others. On July the 7th, we have Andre Paradis with what is the number one reason men and women fail in love. And then on July 14th, we have Mel O with Sexy Money. Y'all want to tap into that one. And then on July the 21st, we have Dr. Barbara and Dr. Michael Grossman with our brain on the drug love. People don't even think about that. It's the best drug in the world. And just for everyone, if you're listening, definitely want to make sure that you leave us a comment, rate us, let us know how we're doing. Just know that we are live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Clubhouse under Bringing Intimacy Back. So don't forget, let us know how we're doing. Rate us.
Definitely. Yes. And if you're out there listening and you just tune in or whatever, and if you're having female sexual pain, or even you're talking with your girlfriends and you're like, wow, I heard this great podcast. Yeah, definitely check out Traci Owen and seeing what she's doing. Yes. All right, then. We will see you guys next week. This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back. We hope you enjoyed it. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. Dr. April Brown's 5-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon, available in Kindle, Audible, or paperback. We'll see you next Thursday live at 3:30 p.m.